Please welcome Elizabeth Everett.
Hi guys, good to see you all. Hi. How many of you have heard me speak before? A few of you. Hello. Awesome. So you are aware of some of my work, the videos, things like that? I'm just trying to figure out where we want to start, how I want to begin. And are you enjoying this weekend?
Yeah,
so far. So all kinds of levels of teaching and all kinds of creatures, some that go bump in the night. So let's begin. Who am I? My name's Elizabeth. I've been involved in this world for over 6 years now. I've worked with over 11 companies. I've won 2 different awards, and one of them from you guys. So thank you very much. I'm really grateful for that. I have had the extreme pleasure of being in this world long enough to watch some really stunning men wake up. And that's awesome. I am proud to call them my friends. I'm proud to have them in my tribe. So watching people like my friend Nate, Jared, Arthur, there's awesome people in this world to learn from. For example, where's Hydro? Is he in here? Anyway, if someone asked yesterday about getting over a breakup, is that person in the room? Oh, they're lost. Well, the thing is what I really love, for example, is I am watching as a female the evolution of game. This is extremely exciting, extremely refreshing. And so, for example, how do you get over a breakup? Jared actually has a blog where he went through this whole discussion about, yes, okay, in the pickup world, it's all about go out and get a bunch of other chicks real quick, and it's like, that's the normal thing. That's what they teach. But you know what? Jared actually talks about really sitting in the pain, really handling it. So then guess what? What a concept. You don't actually repeat the same action again and again. You need to see what went wrong so that you don't bring up the same situation. Have you ever found that you're bringing in the same people into your life? Is it a skipping record? Have you noticed that?
Yes.
How many years have you guys been involved in game? Would you say you're mostly beginner, intermediate, advanced? Can I see a show of hands who would call themselves beginners? Okay. Well, thank you. Awesome. And would you say, anyone in here, would you say you're pretty proficient? You've got your, big, all your women in your stable kind of hanging out with you right now? Oh, yes. Okay. Well, yes, awesome. Awesome. And here's the big question. Have you realized that outer game only gets you to a certain level, and then eventually you kind of hit a ceiling? Often you can get the girl, but you can't keep the girl. Yeah. Nate, would you remind me if I don't speak about sex or herbs? Would you remind me I need to talk about sex and herbs? Well, you'll remember the herbs. We've got to talk about horny goatweed. Come on now. Yeah, right? Okay. Come on now. So basically, I have been involved in this industry for a long time now. I teach mostly inner game, although I do know outer game. That's not a problem. But see, here's the thing. There's a lot of people that are teaching outer game, and they're awesome at it. And because I'm a female, I have a whole other way of looking at it, right? But what I have lived my whole life is inner game. Because I grew up with a little bit of, I was touched by Asperger's. I have a little bit of that. So on one level, I'm a master of many things. On another level, I'm a complete idiot. There's certain things where it's like, wait, you want me to do what? And I felt extremely uncomfortable around people. I actually used to get beaten up by the popular kids. I used to get mooned all the time. So I remember this horrible time when the popular kids broke my violin. When I was growing up, it was extremely painful. I didn't know how to talk to people, and I was the total wallflower watching everybody. I remember I have a specific memory being in a room full of people making out at a party. And it was like this very strange moment where I was the only one sitting on the couch between all the couples making out, sitting there feeling like not knowing what was going on, not understanding why I was not being accepted, So I don't know about you, but I had a whole growing up experience of being a Rudolph or being a unicorn, right? So life was extremely hard. It was like a curse for me because being the way that I am what's called a hyper empath, and in the beginning it's a curse. Eventually what we have to do as we go through our lives is that we turn our curses into the gifts. Yeah? So when you start to wake up, when you start to grow up, you are creating representational systems so that you can delete, distort, and generalize, so that you can handle all the information that's coming in. Every single moment we're receiving about 400 billion bits of information. You think you might miss a little bit of that? You think you might have to filter all that out? Well, for me, I was receiving way too much. So people would come up to talk to me, and they'd be saying all this lovely stuff. But for me, I was receiving all this other information. And often, it was not congruent with what they were telling me. Can you imagine, especially as a child, that freaking you out? Picking up all their stuff, all their inner stuff, all the stuff that they're not cleaning up in their lives? Have you ever stood next to someone and they're perfectly fine, but then suddenly you start to really feel like you need a shower because they're so loaded? Like there's stuff all around them. See, we give out a math. We give out a patterning that most people are not aware of. They feel it. Most people, if they have the intuition, if those doors are open within them, they're going to pick that up. Yeah? But we filter those things out. Now, after doing enough work in the shamanic lineage that I've been in, almost 3 decades now, I have done enough inner work in the noumenal worlds that I can now bring to you what it is that I've learned. I've also deeply, deeply worked within the music industry. I've worked with The Cure, Peter Gabriel, Paul Oakenfold. I am now working I have 2 bosses that are considered to be rock gods of the industry. You're welcome to ask me who they are outside of this. So I have had the pleasure and the pain of experiencing social rapport and dynamics and leveraging in that world as well. Yeah? I'm a certified hypnotherapist, I am a Chinese herbalist, and I'm a neurolinguistic programmer. So, yeah, I'm a bit of a weirdo. Anyway. So, what that means for you is that because I've traveled the world experiencing things that most of the other people on this planet have not, I seek out the anomalies, the secrets. I'm all about archaeology, but more about archaeology of the soul, digging around, seeing what can we do to wake you up. I suggest to all of you that you watch the film Limitless and understand that that is the key path that you are all on. It is not necessarily about taking a pill. It is more about the decalcification of the pineal gland. Your third eye. Yes? If thine eye be single. Yes? You wonder why all the Illuminati, MK Ultra people are going like that? In all the rock videos and all the news, that's what they're pointing to. If thine eye be single. If you study the right eye to the left eye of Horus, the woodjet, which is Egyptian, they're talking about the alignment of the right and the left hemisphere, the hemispheres of the brain. When you wake up and you come online, most people are dumbing down. Have you noticed? Have you noticed? We're in idiocracy right now. Miley Cyrus. Talk about misdirection, huh? Right? While so much else is going on this stage. Or you're waking up. You got a big choice right now, but you need courage. This is what it's all about, stepping into your alpha, your kingship, doing the things that scare you. You want more than vanilla women? Then stop being vanilla men. So, I need to cover a couple things because I have to as a female in this world. Coming into this world, there is every level of game. And I have to come in with a warning. This information is like the Force in Star Wars. It's neutral, right? You can use it for good, you can use it for bad. Yeah? So we've got the Jedis, amazing, amazing kings waking up, astonishing creatures. And then you have bless their cotton socks, the little boys who are pretending at playing the Sith Lords, And they're not here for altruistic reasons. They're actually very dangerous people. And they are taking advantage of you. They are gaming you. So I ask you to really pay attention to the countenance of the teacher who's trying to get you involved on their road. There are some serious narcissistic, megalomaniac vampires. in this community. Because unfortunately, they're attracted here, you know? And there's brilliant, brilliant people. But you can feel it. You can feel it. You can feel it in the math that they're presenting to you. Yeah? Also, understand with the information that's being taught to you, there are levels to game. There are things to pass through. It's like getting training wheels. Some of that lower level game is extremely, karmically bad for everybody. Be very, very careful. If somebody's telling you they can teach you to get broken women, you run. You act long enough, like an incubus, you'll bring a succubus. I promise. I've been involved in this gaming world long enough, I know most of the big, big gurus. A lot of those gurus are amazing. They've won the game. They're awesome guys. But some of those gurus, karma came to find them. And karma's only a bitch if you are. So, I have to warn you, with whatever you learn here, with all power comes responsibility. We are women with hearts and souls. Come forward with clean and true intentions, being a knight or a king that you all are capable of being, I hope, versus being some guy being like, yeah, I want you as my girlfriend, versus, oh no, actually, I really only want you for one night, but I'm not going to tell you that. Come clean. Watch your words. Watch your ethics. All those things matter. You want the higher level women? That's part of it. That's part of what you do, is you keep your ethics in. You watch your words. Do you understand that your words are so powerful? What happens is that if you do not watch your words and your promises and what you use with the words, if you break people's, if you make a promise and then you break it, your subconscious is paying attention. So if you start doing that again and again and again, your subconscious then goes, but that's not true. And you actually lose the potency and the power of the way that you speak. In the beginning was the word, right? Abracadabra. You know that word, abracadabra? It's abracadabra. And it comes from Aramaic and Hebrew, and it says, I create that which I speak. When you speak, when you act, in all things you keep it clean, then guess what? Everything in your world changes. And the women that you manifest are cleaner, better, more delightful, amazing, not creepy, psychotic, dear God in heaven, did I really get her pregnant again? Oh, yes. Oops. Anyway, so the thing is I warn you here. There's paths to walk. There are levels to walk, right? So that's what I had to come forward and tell you first. The second thing is, let's very, very quickly, very briefly look at what is attraction. Do we know what that is? That's the dance back and forth between polarity and rapport. We know that, yes? Do we all know that in this room? I'm going to touch upon it very, very quickly just because I've taught it before. You can see it in my videos. So the idea is that it's going back and forth between the poles, yeah? So there's a certain period where everything's awesome. You're completely matching her breathing. You're mirroring her movements. You're listening to what she's saying and you're matching what she's saying, right? You're doing all those things in rapport. So that's trust, right? That's when everything that's like attracts like, baby. But the thing is that then you have to know when to step into opposites attract, into the polarity. Perhaps that's when you have the disagreements. That's when you have your own opinions. That's when you break rapport. That's when you maybe pull away. That's maybe when you do a takeaway and you walk away. Or maybe you might disapprove of something. There's all these other things, but you must go back and forth between the two, right? The question is do you have that courage to step into that discomfort? If you can sit in the fire of the discomfort, you're much more sexy. Yeah? See, most of the time, guys are and girls are extremely uncomfortable with the present moment. We are constantly seeking to escape and get away from it. So we're looking for this addiction. We're looking for that addiction. We're looking for this person to complete me. You know, please love me. Oh God, no. See, as long as you can't sit with yourself, why would we want to sit with you? If you can't sit with yourself, the greatest gift you can give yourselves is to go on a 10-day Vipassana Retreat. Do you guys know what that is? So in Theravadan Buddhist training, there's a 10-day retreat, which is it's a form of meditation called Vipassana, where you're basically sitting and you can't go anywhere. You have to sit with your stuff. No TV, no talking, no video games, no chicks to go out and game. You just have to deal with you. You want to talk about the burning that starts to happen? Day 3, day 4, ouch. But you know what? Something starts to shift. You start having insights that blow your mind. All that stuff that you're uncomfortable with, that energy that you're uncomfortable with, yeah, the thing that keeps you running all the time, looking for us to complete that in you, the more you sit with it, that's parts of your personality and your psyche seeking to come home. Those are frozen aspects to your energy. You want to have more mojo, charisma? You need to sit with all that discomfort. That discomfort is the parts of you that you have shoved away. It's not about exorcism. It's about insorcism. The more of you that you can be comfortable with, the more sexy you are as a man. Trust me. So, very, very briefly as well, we're going to go into the good news. We're going to go into the bad news.
Can you spell the name of the retreat, please?
Vipassana, Vipasana, I believe. I think there's like a double N or it's either a double S, but and I can always send you a link or whatever. I mean, it's something I used to do a lot. But if you are aware of Kundalini Yoga, Kundalini energy, of bringing the energy up through the base of the spine, most people only ever experience it as a orgasm or a shiver up the spine, but it rests at the bottom of the base, at the perineum. And when you work with that, it actually rises up. If you see all the religious paintings, you'll see halos, right? You'll see the Egyptians with the snakes coming out of their third eye or up out of the top of their head. You'll see in all the Buddhist paintings, you'll see all the light, right? All that stuff is indicative of the Kundalini energy, the Caduceus, by the way, with the snakes and the wings. You know that the medicine world took. All that is the Kundalini energy woken up. That is the person who has completely come home to themselves. And believe me, that's real sexy. Yeah. So, good, bad news. The good and bad news is this. The bad news is that normal game at a certain level no longer works. We know this stuff better than you do, boys. Because we get it every day. How many times do we need to hear, hey, can I get a female opinion on something? No. Go away. Now, when someone like that begins with me now, on a certain level, yes, there's if you're beginning at this, you must do this. I understand this. It's training wheels. You got to learn this thing. Yes, it's awesome. And it works especially if you're in a smaller town. But if you're in the city, have fun with that. Because here's what happens. It's now become an unattraction switch. Because when you're doing game like that and we smell it on you, then we go, oh God, you're one of those. And we're like, okay, dance for me, baby. Do a little dance, awesome. And you become an entertaining monkey, a little clown. Woo-hoo-hoo. I don't really want to have sex with that. Sorry. Unless I'm into a one-night stand. Why not, So you need to understand that game is a place to visit. Do not stay. You pass through it. That's the problem. Be real careful. This stuff can make you real creepy. Have you noticed? Yeah. So you learn this stuff, you learn the rules, and then you break the rules, right? What will get you a girl at one level, you will lose the woman at the next level. Absolutely. It's like what I said in my interview, we're not your pit bosses. We're not your targets. Okay? We're your allies. We're meant to play this side by side with you to do the real game. Yes, thank you. The good news of this is that we actually want you to be working on yourselves. We want you to get this right. I don't know about you, but growing up as a girl, we had a lot of indoctrinations and brainwashing thrown upon us. I was brought up to be a good little girl, a debutante. I had to wear little white gloves and walk down the stairs and present myself like a meat market in the debutante world. It was horrific. I had to take ballroom dancing, I'm hyper-programmed and indoctrinated. Oh, don't talk to strangers, by the way, right? You know that one? So as a girl, when you guys come up to us and you're like, hi, hey, baby, how you doing? That's why often direct has to be done so carefully, because we're like, ah! It's the original programming that comes up that, there's this little 3-year-old in me that goes, I mustn't talk to strangers, even though I want you to, but I better not. Do you see? So we really want you to learn how to bypass some of these shields that we didn't even put on ourselves, like our parents put on us, yes? Does that make sense? Okay, so let me go digging through my notes. Any questions so far?
Sex and herbs.
Oh, not yet. Oh, wait. Well, do we want to talk about sex yet? Ooh, yes. Okay, let's do that. All right. Okay, sweethearts. If there's anything you take away from my lesson today, you need to get this. If you spent as much time and money and years of researching pickup, like in all this energy that you've given to learning how to get us, do you actually know what to do with us once you get us? My friends, if you learn how to touch a woman correctly, you won't have a problem getting women. You'll wear it on you like a cloak. If you give women real good orgasms, if you're really there in bed with us, oh my God, not only will you have the women that you'll keep the women that you get, but you'll walk around in the room, you'll walk around in life with a sort of countenance that says, I know how to bring pleasure to my queens. I know what to do. We can tell how you move in your body. Do you know what to do with your hips? Yeah? Can you be present with us fully? Have you worked with Tantra, being present in the moment, making love to the present moment? Every word in how you speak, is it your lover? You know? For example, there is so much you can do in the bedroom, but do you know how? For example, just in thrusting alone. There's angle, there's depth, there's speed. And you can mix that up real good. Did you know that in the difference of how you thrust, one feels like tantalization and one is satisfying? And do you know how to mix that up and make it work? Do you know what the 9 and 9 is? Anybody in this room? You know what the 9 and 9 is? It's a Taoist technique. Exactly. Where basically you do 8 short mini thrusts and then 1 deep one. Then you do 7 short mini thrusts and then 2 deep ones until you start alternating down. Then you alternate back up. Try it. So there are all these ways of being with us in bed that are like, I mean, for example, there's do you know what oming is? Who in this room knows what oming is? Yes? Of course you do. Yes, right? So I suggest you look that up. There's something called One Taste, where you learn how to give women some mighty fine orgasms, thank you very much. And you might actually meet a pretty awesome woman, too. You never know. Now, mind you, I warn you, they are a little cultish, so be careful. But I would suggest that... Yeah. But see, this is the thing. This is the thing about so many cults, is that often cults have a lot of treasure. You just have to be careful that you're often looking for the treasure and there's sharks swimming around. You know, so go in, get the treasure, and then get out. Yeah? So learn how to give the woman the orgasm and then get out. Yeah? But the thing is that you have to understand the Taoist, you should be researching Taoist, sexual techniques. There's an awesome book, it's a very ancient book called White Tiger, Green Dragon. Look that up. That will teach you some delicious stuff about yin-yang energies. I mean, come on now, right? So you read that sort of stuff. There's another book called Sex Again, right? You look that up. You'll learn more about that as well. And if you can learn how to treat us if you learn to be amazing with us in bed, there's a whole concept called Hieros Gamos. And Hieros Gamos is a whole practice that was done in the ancient traditions about literally becoming the god and goddess in sacred union, in bed together. And they were literally bringing heaven down onto earth. Wouldn't you like to know how to do that? And if you are able to do that, we'll feel it and we'll know. In the Taoist tradition, there's actually 9 stages to orgasm. Our version of an orgasm is stage 4. Wouldn't you like to know what the other stages are? Wouldn't you like to get to those experiences which are full body orgasms, for example? All these things that you want to do, that you have to do. Anyway, any questions on that?
Yeah, the books like White Tiger, Green Dragon, there's usually a lot of different translations of those works. There's some certain ones you recommend?
Yes, but I don't have it written down. I mean, I have a really weird Facebook. I warn people when they join me on Facebook, you're welcome to ask me that. I post crazy like conspiracy theory stuff and like strange cat Star Wars, pictures and memes. So I mean, I warn you at your own accord to join that page. But I also post some really wild stuff that you can learn from as well. So let's look a little closer at learning to become friends with your inner world, so that then you can be comfortable with, that we as females can be comfortable with you. So you guys understand the whole concept around self-esteem versus self-respect? What's the difference? Does anyone know?
It takes self-esteem, self-respect in order to cultivate self-esteem.
It can. It can. Here's the thing. If you look at self-esteem, esteem comes from estimate, to estimate, to make an estimate. Yeah? Usually self-esteem comes from your strengths, your weaknesses, right? It's about who you are. Whereas self-respect, respect means to look back, meaning what have you done, right? So it's all about having a balance between the two. Self-esteem is very much about when you were growing up, what were your caregivers showing you? How were they treating you? Were they giving you a lot of trauma? How were they punishing you? Were they punishing you for just annoying behavior? Were they doing what's called forbidding gestures, which caused abandonment, betrayal, or rejection? Now, usually we all have what's called a pathological inner critic. I don't know about you, I do. It depends on how loud the voice is. What you have to understand about disarming that critic is that you have to understand what it is and why it's there for you. It's actually there as a positive coping strategy. You have to look at, there are different levels of this critic, which is situational, and that only happens in certain situations. So maybe your career is awesome, but with girls, you've got this, this voice going, "You're not good enough, she's gonna hate you," right? Or it's characterological. And then that's a deeper issue. And that's more where there's some stuff going on where you were seen as the bad person. There was the bad behavior versus you were wrong. You were a bad being. Now, this is a deeper thing that you have to work with. It can be really tough. But let's look at this inner critic a little bit and let's learn how we can disarm it. Because I don't know about you, but when I've been out and I've been around a guy that I fancy, that critic gets so loud, the doubt, the fear, the approach anxiety starts to kind of take over. So how do we handle that inner world? This is what you have to understand, first of all. Know thyself, right? When you are knowing of yourself and you know what this critic is, it loses the power and it loses the charge. So let's look at it a little bit. Usually the critic is created from your parents' of a frequency of saying you're not good enough, you're stupid, or you need to achieve more, right? And what's happened is that what you don't realize is that you're actually giving this voice positive reinforcement. Now, what is that? It's actually there to protect you. It actually has helped you once in a while get out of pain. So most of the time, it's a torturer. Sometimes it's helping you atone for guilt, or maybe it's keeping you protected from rejection, or maybe it's an achievement motivator, right? So there's a difference there in seeing it in being a positive versus a negative. But here's what happens. Let's say you're never good enough. You have to just keep on achieving, keep on achieving. It's always whipping you and beating you, and it's like, oh my God, shut up. And yet it was like, no, you got to do better. You'll never be enough, never enough. Well, so then here's what happens. Once in a blue moon, you do succeed. You do find that, success in the business or with the girl or whatever. And in that moment, my dears, that's when you give it the positive reinforcement. So it's those couple of times that suddenly you're rewarding yourself and you go, oh, that must be a good thing that I'm doing. So then your mind goes, well, this must work. I'll keep beating myself up. Does that make sense? You guys understand that? Okay, so what this is called is called a variable ratio reinforcement schedule. Another way of calling it is intermittent rewarding. This is what they do at the casinos. This is how they get you hooked and addicted. Is that they literally get you on the slot machines, right? And they give you a little cookie, a little bit of money, a little reward. Yay, you won, woohoo! And you're like, okay, well, I'll come back. I'll do that some more. Come on. And it's like, no. And then you're hooked. And you see all those poor, pathetic souls in Vegas, doing this for the rest of their lives, right? But you're actually doing that to yourself with your thinking like that. This is why you need to learn to watch your thinking to understand when you're giving yourself that positive. You are doing intermittent rewarding with your own thoughts. So now when you start to see this, and you watch when you start giving yourself the cookie of the pleasure, maybe when you do have that successful moment, that's when you say, no, we're gonna make a new choice. We're gonna find a new thought to think. And by the way, intermittent rewarding is also done in the darker areas of game. And I warn you, do not do that, because women especially will do it right back to you. Where you give a little reward, and then you take it away. Then you give a little bit of a reward, and you give less and less of a reward, but then they keep on showing up. It's extremely brutal. Not cool. But it's interesting to see how this sort of technique actually is done on many, many levels. Out in the casinos, and in your own mind, and in our relationships, right? So you have any questions on that? Yeah.
How would you break that addiction?
Well, the idea is that you need to start paying attention to where you are giving the negative behavior of your thinking. You notice in that moment, you go, I just caught where I'm rewarding myself. I'm in that pleasure. See, here's the thing. You must become uber aware of your thought processes and catch, because it's so hooked into our personality that we believe it to be who we actually really are, when it's just a coping strategy. It was just something put in by our caregivers. You'll never be enough. You'll never be enough. And here's what's another thing to catch, is if you keep believing in that way of thinking, on a certain level in your mind, you're actually getting acceptance from your caregivers still from years ago. Do you see? You're also giving positive reinforcement, because if I behave that voice, then my mommy and daddy will still love me. So we're walking around as adults, and we're still going, well, maybe mommy and daddy will still love me if I'm very, very good. There's also the negative thinking where you're atoning for guilt, where you're going mea culpa, and you're causing your own suffering and beating yourself up. And the reinforcement you're giving and the pleasure you're giving to yourself there by beating yourself up is because you feel this deep amount of guilt and shame for some sort of reason, some sort of trauma that occurred, that was placed upon you, that you're either guilty for or you're not guilty for. But you end up putting yourself in prison for the rest of your life by that thinking. But the thing is that when you notice that and go, wait a minute, I'm causing this pleasure because look how amazing I am. I'm beating myself up. You see, I'm doing, you make yourself feel better for that. You have to. That's and some people wear a little rubber band around their wrist and they snap it, so they don't give the pleasure. They reverse the charges per se. Like instead of giving the pleasure in that moment, what the mind is expecting, you go no, and you actually give the pain. So you're slightly changing the wiring in this programming. You see? Does that help? Now here's the thing. It is incredibly sexy to be with a man, to talk with a man who is operating from a clean origination point versus a man who is still living in his trauma point. When a man is in his origination point, he has done the inner work to defrag his system. There's cookies, there's spamware, there's spyware, there's Trojan horses, there's ancestral junk, all kinds of stuff. Yes, but the idea is that there are many, many techniques that you can do that will help to get you back to the place of where you're in that center place of the original blueprint. This is where you have access to the infinity files. This is where you can be and do anything and anyone. Did you get that you're the chosen one? And so is everyone else. And so is the smudge on the floor. Right? Sorry, I just went to a whole other discussion. God, whose center is everywhere, whose circumference is nowhere. Or you're operating from the trauma point. Now, the trauma point is usually when some sort of fractionation occurred, some sort of issue. Often, for example, narcissistic personality disorder, which is rampant in this community, actually happens around age 2 or 3. Or there's some sort of issue that happens of trauma where the child and the personality fractures. It splits. So they lose that part of themselves. So a new part of their psyche comes in and says, that's okay, we'll take care of you. We'll help you to be real big. You'll never have to feel that pain again. Yeah? If you're operating from that place, it's an extremely weak place to be. Yeah? So you're either at cause, in your sovereignty, as the king that you are or that you're all capable of being, versus being at effect to everything. Being the victim. Why me? Why does this always happen to me? I never get the girls. As long as you're looking for something outside of yourself, if you're looking for these women to complete you, you will never find us. There'll always be something wrong with the chicks. Really, have you noticed? Whereas if you're coming from a place of absolutely being whole within your strength, your mojo, you've been through enough, you've suffered enough, you've bled enough, you've cried enough. You've been there for your family. You really are a protector of loved ones. What a concept. You really are a leader of men versus pretending to be. When you're in that place, you are so sexy to us. Have you guys been paying attention to what's happening to Russell Brand? Are you watching that? I am. You want to talk about when he first came onto the stage? I was like, king of the douchebags. So gross. Talk about a Peter Pan, right? And yet, in the last few years, that man is doing so much inner work. He is waking up. And do you know how flipping sexy that is? I invite you to go to YouTube and research, what does it say? It's Russell Brand owns MSNBC. Watch.
The morning show.
Yes. It literally, he ends up making fun of them, taking over the show, making them hate him and yet want to take him to bed all at the same time. Then, a couple days ago, did you hear? He just got kicked out of the GQ Awards.
What?
Oh, this is so... You want to talk about moxie and courage? What I'm talking about is this is what you should all be doing in your lives if you want more than vanilla women. If you want your red queen, you've got to be waking up like this and walking the walk. He got thrown out of the GQ Awards because he was brought up on stage and you know, on the back it was saying Hugo Boss, right? He was one of the sponsors. And he said, oh, did you all know that Hugo Boss made the Nazi uniforms? The courage to do that. They threw him out. And the GQ editor came up to him and said, what you did to Hugo Boss was very offensive. And he turned around and he said, what Hugo Boss did to the Jews was very offensive. I love you. Hi, you want to go back to my hotel room? Yeah, right now. Oh, do you get how delicious that is? My God. My God. There's a man who doesn't know me, but I know him, whose name is Kay. I still know his name. I met him years ago, only once. But that man is definitely in my mind. I jumped out of an airplane a couple years ago for my birthday. They assigned me to the captain of the team. His name is Kay. That man didn't need to do any game. He didn't need to do any gambits. That man jumps out of airplanes twice a day, putting not only his life at risk, but other lives at risk. That man has to be on it. He has to bring it. And that life experience absolutely makes him a sexy man. I mean, it's in his pores. It's in his swagger. It's in the way he walks. You think you might do that enough, then suddenly you might hold yourself a little differently? You see? I have a friend I spoke briefly about named Christopher Howe, who, if you want to learn about him, he's from IamWalking.org. Yeah? And basically, he woke up and had a vision where he realized he wanted to walk to Brazil. No small feat. Took him 2 years. He did it. Walked through gangland, almost got killed, ended up in the Amazon. This was a very sweet, attractive man before. But you want to talk about the path of the Holy Grail? Research the night of Percival and the quest for the Holy Grail. That is your quest, my friends. When Christopher Howe came back from Brazil, he could have recited the back of a cake mix box. He was so hot. It was in his countenance. He was so delicious. You guys, my gosh. Right? It's about you having the courage to really step out of the box. Do the things that you're afraid of. Right? Go jump out of the airplanes. Go serve at the homeless shelter. Go take care of the animals. My God, do you know what's happening to the animals right now? Are you seeing what's happening on the planet right now? Forget Miley Cyrus. We're about to have false flags in Syria and Iran. You think? Show up in your community and be the kings that you're capable of being. And then your real red queens will show up. Clean up your ethics. If you're going to do something, say you're going to do it and then do it. You have to understand your subconscious is watching. Anyone have questions? Anybody? Yeah?
How did you begin to get a handle on what you said being touched by Asperger's and
Okay.
learning to handle social situations?
Okay. So there are many, many techniques out there. There's a lot of shadow work. There's something called Tonglen. There are extremely profound exercises, for example, rebirthing. There's recapitulation work. There's holotropic breath work. But what I did, and this is only for very few people in the room, is that I'm involved in a shamanic lineage where I work with something called ayahuasca.
Okay.
My whole life has absolutely changed because of that. It is all about opening the third eye. So there are herbs. So I think maybe I read your thought. There are herbs to take to actually help to open this. So if you don't have the courage to do something profound like the ayahuasca, by the way, if you do, you look up something like templeofthewayoflight.org. That's in Peru. It's a non-profit charitable organization of women Shipipo elders. And they'll take you through it. And they'll wake you up real quick. But it's not easy. And there are moments where you'll scream and do a lot of purging. But it's worth it. Because you come out the other end, you come out a man. Because see, here's the problem. You guys have not had your rites of passage. You need your initiations. We do not have that in this society anymore. The indigenous cultures knew why it was so important to have those rites of passage. There's all these guys running around as adults, but they're manifesting and acting like little boys. Right? So, if the ayahuasca is not being worked with, or the iboga, which means I begin again, but that's 36 hours long, but that's also possible to do. That was done in Africa. They do it in the tribes where the boys become the men. They work with the iboga. That's another plant to work with. But if you just want to do it on a daily level, if you want to work with decalcifying the pineal gland and stepping into limitless, you work with something like MSM. You work with blue skate oil, chlorella, spirulina. Tyler and I talk a lot about taking herbs because when you are working with the herbs as a Chinese herbalist, I absolutely healed my life. There is a difference between kind of living this world in this small little box, this little body, versus actually plugging into the grid system. All these plants are here on the planet for a reason. They're like little keys to locks and secrets within you. All that junk DNA is not junk. Those are zip files. waiting for the correct codes. There are ways to access those codes. Okay? I have piles of other bits and notes and whatever, but of course I womble on, and who knows. More questions? Anyone want to? Yes?
What were the signs?
What were the
four you mentioned?
MSM, blue skate oil, chlorella, spirulina. Also, there are certain substances that are within our water that we are also breathing in the air. Certain GMOs, things like that, which are dumbing the people down. I mean, have you noticed we are in the zombie apocalypse? So, there are certain things of... World War Z. Yes. Did you notice? So the idea is that we are in a real make or break situation. You're either going to go down and you're going to get real stupid, or you're going to start really waking up. But you know what? That takes courage. And guess what? The women will show. See, here's the issue. Your focus is on the wrong thing. If you're coming from a place of incompleteness, needing to get the chick to complete you, you've already lost. Work on becoming the king, and she will show. It's not outside. Stop combing the mirror. It's like if I need to pop a pimple, why am I trying to pop it out there when the issue is here? Your queen or your king, like my king, forgive me, my king is within me. When I know that, when I have the union of the poles within me, absolutely, that's when the delicious ones show up. That's when the ones without the issues, per se, show up. You have your inner queen already within you, but you have to feel her as already arrived. See, that's the problem. As long as you think that she's not in your life, she will not show. She must be with you now, already here, and aren't we grateful for that? Because gratitude will get you everything. If you want to learn more about this, I gave a lecture with Nate at the Casanova crew at his house, and he filmed it. And if you go to YouTube and you type in Inner Game, Elizabeth Everett, edited by Mystery, you can see that. That's the edited version. There's also a slightly longer one, depending on what you're into. Also, gosh, shoot, I didn't even get to it. You need to all research cymatics. If you want to understand about the Avada Kedavra and the words being of power and that you are creating your reality, if you research the science of sound creating matter, you'll look that up. I talk a lot more about it in that lecture, yeah? So, oh gosh, plenty to say. Anyway, any more questions before I disappear? Yeah. Yes, Steve?
If somebody has no sexual experience or is like conflicted about their views in it, like they're angry about it or having a lot of dysfunction or lost with that idea, where would they start? Where is a good starting place for them in this whole view?
Well, it depends a lot. Like, every person is different. So again, I'd have to speak to them. The fastest way is to work with the sacrament, the teacher plants, because it goes to the root of the trauma. You do have to do certain kinds of work like timeline therapy, for example, find out where that original belief was programmed into them, and then work at cleaning that out. Sometimes rebirthing also really goes to the root and helps them scream it out. They have to process it through because it's in their system. It's in their bodies, you know? So they have to work on cleaning that out. It's also about getting them into movement classes, yoga classes, getting them to live life a little bit so that then they start thinking about things a little. Because let me tell you, I didn't lose my virginity until very late, because I had all that kind of stuff. I don't have that stuff anymore. But that's because I did the work. So it's really, does the person really want to change? Are they willing to go to the scary places where they're going to scream a little bit? Anyone else? Or I guess we're, okay, understood. So esotericattraction.com, Elizabeth Everett, thank you very much. And I can always answer things out there. Thank you.